Welcome back to the deep dive. Our mission today is, well, it's all about designing engagement. Specifically, we're diving into how to design workshops that keep participants engaged from start to finish. We've all been there, right? You're in that session, maybe it's mandatory, and you can just feel the energy drain. People start checking their watches, or worse, their
Yeah,
phones.
the dreaded zone out.
Exactly. They're physically present, but mentally they've completely checked out. And that's not just wasted time or money. It actually hurts the facilitator's reputation, and honestly, it kills any chance of real learning. It's really a failure of design.
It absolutely is. And, the difference between a workshop that's just okay and one that genuinely creates lasting change, it's not about having the flashiest slides or, the latest buzzwords.
Right.
It really comes down to understanding how adults actually learn and then structuring the whole experience around that natural process. It needs structure.
Okay, structure. So not just winging it with some activities.
Definitely not. What works, what's proven, is this four-phase workshop framework. Think of it like a blueprint, a detailed plan for building engagement. It ensures every part of the workshop serves a purpose, engagement, application, and getting people to actually commit to doing something different.
A blueprint. I like that. Very intentional. Okay, let's lay out this blueprint then. We're going to explore these four essential phases. Phase 1, opening phase 2, exploration phase 3, application, and phase 4, commitment.
That's the map.
So phase 1, the opening, it sounds like this is make or break time. There's a rule here, isn't there? The 15-minute rule.
Yes, absolutely critical. That first 15 minutes, that's when people decide, are they leaning in or are they just, physically showing up?
And most facilitators kind of waste this time.
Totally wasted. They get bogged down in boring admin, reading the agenda line by line logistics. It's a huge missed opportunity. A powerful opening needs to do four specific things. Fast, grab attention, clarify the purpose, build psychological safety, and create some real connection.
4 things in 15 minutes. Okay, that sounds intense. Let's break it down. First, capturing attention. How do you hook them right away?
You need something provocative, something that hits a nerve or challenges an assumption. So maybe instead of welcome, you start with a question like, what if your go-to praise strategy is actually demotivating your team?
Ooh, okay. That would get my attention.
Right. Or a really surprising statistic. Like, did you know some research suggests 86% of workplace failures trace back to poor communication? Something quick, relevant, maybe a super short story under 2 minutes.
Okay, hook achieved. What's next? Clarifying outcomes.
Immediately. Don't just say we're talking about feedback today. Be specific about what they'll be able to do. Use this formula. By the end of today's workshop, you will be able to, for instance, give constructive feedback that actually motivates change. It's about capability, not just topics.
Got it. Makes it tangible. Then number 3, building psychological safety. This sounds foundational.
It's everything. Because learning involves vulnerability, right? If people are afraid to speak up, ask questions, or maybe get something wrong, they just clam up.
They shut down. Yeah.
Exactly. So you need clear ground rules like focus on learning, not judgment. And, importantly, the facilitator needs to show a little vulnerability, too. Briefly share your own struggle with the topic. Makes it human.
That's a great point. Humanizes the expert. Okay, and the last piece of the opening, creating connection. We all dread those cheesy icebreakers.
Oh, the worst. Name and favorite animal. No, make it purposeful. Use something like perspective partners. Pair people up. Give them one relevant, challenging scenario to discuss briefly, like a communication issue they faced this week.
Ah, so it's related to the content immediately.
Precisely. Gets them talking, reveals where they're starting from, and builds energy. All related to the workshop topic.
Okay, so we've nailed the opening in 15 minutes. People are engaged, they feel safe, they know why they're here. Now we move into phase 2, exploration. This is the content part, where workshops often, hit the wall with endless lectures.
Right, and that's where the next rule comes in, the 20-30 minute rule. Basically, adult attention spans for passive listening crater after about 20 minutes, maybe 30 max.
So just talking at them doesn't work for long.
Not at all. The key here is structuring the entire exploration phase around a cycle, the content activity reflection cycle. We call it CAR. Think of it as the heartbeat of engagement.
CAR. Okay, tell me about that cycle. Content first, but you're saying keep it really short, like 7 to 10 minutes. That seems tight for complex topics.
It is tight, and that's the point.
Yeah.
You focus on one digestible chunk of information, not the whole chapter, just one core concept. You can use a mini lecture, sure, or a quick demo, maybe a very short video, like under 3 minutes.
So break down dense topics into multiple CAR cycles.
Exactly. Minimize the passive listening, maximize the active doing. So after that short burst of content,
Dot comes the A activity for about 10–15 minutes.
yep, immediate application. If the content was, say, active listening techniques, the activity might be a quick pair practice, trying out one specific technique. Or maybe a think pair share on a related question. Concept mapping, a mini case study, something hands-on.
Okay, makes sense. Content, then activity. And the R, reflection. You said this is crucial but often skipped, only 3–5 minutes.
Crucial and, yes, tragically often skipped, especially when time gets tight. But doing the activity isn't enough. Reflection is where the learning actually sticks. It's where people connect the dots, make sense of it.
How do you guide that effectively in just a few minutes?
With focused questions. Things like, what surprised you in that activity? Or how does this specific concept challenge how you usually approach this? Or how could you apply this one idea this week? It forces that internal processing. Don't skip the R.
CAR, CAR. So the exploration phase is just repeating this cycle. That keeps the energy shifting naturally, right?
Right.
Sit, stand, talk, think.
It does. But you still need to manage the overall energy. Watch the room, that post-lunch slump.
Oh yeah, the 2:30 p.m. zombie stare.
Exactly. When you see that starting, throw in a quick energizer, just 1 or 2 minutes. Stand up and stretch. Maybe a 4 corners activity where they physically move to a corner representing their opinion on a statement. Get the blood flowing again. Movement wakes up the brain.
Okay, smart. Managing energy actively. This structured approach leads us right into phase 3, application, making it real. And there's a pretty stark statistic about why this phase is so vital, isn't there?
There is. It really gets to the why of active workshops. Adults typically retain only about 10% of what they just hear, but they can retain up to 90% of what they do and, importantly, what they teach to others. Application is where that doing happens. It bridges knowing to actually doing.
So this is where the rubber meets the road. And the key here is relevance, right? The practice has to feel like their actual job.
Absolutely critical. Generic examples just don't cut it. You need scenarios that are tailored to their world, their challenges, even the messy constraints they face. That means the facilitator needs to do their homework beforehand, understand the audience's reality.
Right. So what kinds of activities work best here? It probably depends on the skill.
It does. For interpersonal skills, think feedback, difficult conversations. Structured role play is powerful. But structured is the key word. Assign roles clearly, give people a few minutes to prep, run the short scenario, and then use a specific framework for peer feedback. Focus on behaviors, not judging the person.
Okay, structured is better than just, okay, you two, role play. But some people really resist role play, find it awkward or cheesy.
Yeah, you get that pushback. If role play feels too confronting, switch to real conversation planning. Have participants use the model you just taught to actually plan out a real difficult conversation they need to have back at work. That makes it immediately relevant and useful.
Ah, that's clever. Solves their actual problem. What about for more analytical or strategic skills?
Then you might use real problem solving. Have participants bring an actual work challenge, a project that's stuck, a budget issue. Then small groups act as consulting teams, using the workshop concepts to analyze the problem and suggest concrete next steps, or apply the concepts to a detailed, relevant case study.
And during this application phase, the facilitator's role changes completely.
Totally. You're not the presenter anymore. You're the coach on the sidelines. You circulate, you listen, you ask probing questions. What other options did you consider? How might that approach impact the team? You encourage peer-to-peer teaching.
And you mentioned handling resistance. Like when someone says, yeah, but this won't work in my department, you don't just let that slide.
Definitely not. That resistance is actually a sign they're grappling with it. Instead of getting defensive, you ask a coaching question back. Okay, tell me more. What specific constraints in your situation mean we need to adapt this approach? It pushes them from just dismissing it to thinking about how to make it work. Turns them into problem solvers.
Shifting from critic to architect. I like that. Okay, that intensive practice leads us to the final crucial phase. Phase 4, commitment. From learning to action. You said this is the one phase you absolutely cannot skip even if you're running out of time.
Never, ever skip it. Think about it. You spend hours building skills, creating insights, and then end with a week. Okay, hope that was helpful. All that potential evaporates the minute they walk out the door. Commitment is the decision point. It locks in the learning and creates accountability.
So what makes a commitment actually effective? Not just a vague intention. There are criteria.
Yes. Good commitments need to be SMART, basically. Specific and measurable, achievable or action-oriented, relevant and time-bound. I'd add public shared with someone and connected to their values, Why does this change matter to them?
Okay, SMART plus public and values. That's robust. How do you facilitate that? What kinds of activities work here?
For skill-building workshops, an implementation timeline is great. Get participants to identify one small action they'll take in the next 24 hours, one in the next week, one in the next month. Very concrete.
Tiny steps build momentum.
Exactly. Or have them create a skill application contract. They write down their specific commitment and sign it. Maybe with an accountability partner they pair up with in the room. They agree on a check-in date.
And for more strategic workshops.
You might create a collaborative implementation roadmap. This is more visual. A timeline showing key milestones, who's responsible for what, by when. It becomes the action plan leaving the room. And don't underestimate the power of micro-commitments. If the overall change feels huge and daunting, ask them, what is the absolute smallest step you could take in the next 24 hours? Just get them started. That first tiny action can unlock bigger changes.
Accountability seems key here. How do you make that stick beyond the workshop itself? The accountability partner helps? Any other techniques?
Yes, the partnership is good. Give them a simple structure for their check-in. Another powerful technique is the letter to future self.
Ah, tell me about that.
In the last 10 minutes, participants write a letter to themselves. They capture their biggest insights, their specific commitments. They seal it, address it to themselves. The facilitator collects them and mails them back 30 days later.
Oh, wow. So it arrives right when the initial motivation might be wearing off.
Precisely. It's a powerful nudge, a reminder from their past self about what mattered in that moment. Really helps combat the fade out.
That's brilliant. And how do you actually close the session, not just fizzle out?
And with energy and focus. A commitment circle works well. Everyone stands, and each person quickly shares their single most important commitment for the coming week or month. It makes it public, reinforces the action focus, then sincere appreciation, and end on that positive action-oriented note.
So let's bring it all together. This 4-phase framework: opening, exploration, application, commitment. It sounds like it provides a really solid structure to ensure engagement doesn't just happen by accident.
That's the essence of it. Your success as a facilitator, honestly, it depends less on being the world's foremost expert on the topic and much more on your ability to design and guide this structured, engaging experience. It respects how people learn. Capture attention early, keep them active with CAR cycles, give them real practice, and lock in the change with concrete commitments.
And this framework scales, right? It works for a 90-minute session as well as a full-day workshop.
Absolutely. You just adjust the time proportions.
Uh-huh.
For 90 minutes, maybe opening is 10 minutes, commitment is 20 minutes, and the middle exploration application section gets condensed. But you always include all 4 phases in that order.
Okay, this has been a really practical deep dive. So for everyone listening, whether you design training, lead meetings, or run workshops, here's maybe a provocative thought to take away. For your next session, look critically at your plan. Have you really allocated specific time for each of these 4 phases? And crucially, have you designed a concrete commitment process with real accountability built in, something that lasts beyond the session itself?
That's the key question.
Because the sooner you start applying this structure, the sooner you'll see that shift from passive attendance to active engagement and ultimately to real measurable change. Until next time, keep diving deep into what matters.